And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with y'all. All right, so I first just want to open up with why do you all want to improve your social media game? Why put in the time? I feel like this is something we kind of just touched on in the introductions when we were talking about what everybody's currently doing, how they're engaging with social media. So I just want to move us forward, but right. So, like we touched on, it's all about reaching the people. So it's really about going where your audience or community already is. You want to figure out where your core community is using social media so you can engage with them regularly, so you can build it, grow in more of that community, engage their friends and supporters. And that's going to allow you to increase the impact of your programs, reach new audiences, and then over time, all of those new supporters, all of that leads to additional support, right? It leads to more funding, it leads to more audience members, it leads to more community partners. And so social media is another way of kind of being seen within the world. There are showing up to in-person events like we were talking about at the beginning, but really social media is a way that you can reach beyond a lot of that. And it also creates a living record of your work. And so one thing that's really nice about social media is that if you tend to it well, it actually is its own testament and kind of work sample for potential funders. So people will go and people will look at your website, and then the next thing they're going to look at is going to be your social media accounts. And having nice documentation, all of the promotions for your different programs, all of that there, it creates a timeline of everything that you've been doing. And so that's actually a very useful document that is useful for funders of all types, right? And so when you're going to institutions or individual donors or corporate sponsors, having that kind of record that you can point to, and it even saves you the time. You can open it up on your phone and be like, oh yeah, let me introduce you to my art project. And here's all these beautiful visuals. It's all on your Instagram together or your Facebook page together. So it's really great. While it definitely is tedious and time consuming, it can be a really useful tool as kind of an overall documentation of your work. It also helps you support ongoing programs and campaigns. Advertising is expensive, marketing is expensive. And unfortunately, there was a moment when social media advertising was a lot cheaper. Organizations and event promoters could post to Facebook. I wouldn't say Instagram because Instagram wasn't around any back then, or Twitter, and the algorithm wouldn't shut you down. It would still promote it out to new people and to the majority of your friends. Nowadays, Facebook and Instagram and all of the different social media algorithms have gotten very good at quashing your posts, quashing your content, if they even get a hint of it promoting any kind of organizational or event-based or programmatic or any kind of that, or fundraising campaigns. And so a little bit later, we'll talk about some tricks for kind of cutting through the algorithm. But really having a dedicated and engaged social media base means that when you do put those out, it reaches a lot more organically. It reaches a lot more people without you having to pay for that support and pay for that advertising. And when you get creative with social media and you have things that actually succeed, they have the chance of bringing a lot of new people. And you can see your support and your programs grow in quick ways. And so there's, again, another big advantage there in terms of just kind of organic community-based growth. It's also low barrier to access. You can actually do it for free. And a lot of the tools are very much for free. And so that's really wonderful. It always takes time. It is time intensive. There's no cheat, quick and easy cheat to do social media. Everybody wants to find it. Unfortunately, there's not. Everybody wants a social media intern, but because everybody wants a social media intern, it's very hard to find. And because everybody also wants that support, it's also hard to find volunteers oftentimes who are willing to step forward and really lead your social media. If you can fundraise to get, to hire people, that's always great. If it's not your your cup of tea. Finding consultants or staffing to help you with that is wonderful. But the nice thing is, while you're building up your organization, while you're getting some of your initial support together, social media is something that you can do basically for free. And it does provide legitimacy. Like we were talking about, it is creating a living record of your work. And you also are getting more community partners, organizations, and artists that are in the same field will start to follow you. You get this kind of community, a virtual community of supporters. And over time, that really builds your legitimacy within the field as a whole. Any questions about all of this before I move on?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So the thing that occurred to me, I was just doing a final report for a grant that we just completed. And one thing that occurred to me was it's a way to gauge if I do it more correctly. And maybe you can tell me more about this because it's kind of a back end question. It's a way to gauge engagement. So like one of the deliverables was that I'm going to gauge the level of interest of the community of the children's artwork, and that's proven through X, Y, and Z. So in-person visits to the exhibition. And then I thought, what about social media engagement? Because I did invest a lot of time and energy to do that kind of work. But I wonder what metrics I'm looking at because I look at the dashboard, I'm like, what would count as relevant? So when you're talking about a living record of your work. So I know that's a little bit more of a technical question, Kyle, but I'm wondering if you would have time to think through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that looking at all of the analytics is always useful, but I'd say most often I'm looking at total number of engagements and then unique engagements, unique visitors or people who are interacted with whatever I put out there. And I may have like the specific language I think is different slightly for most of the platforms, but it's somewhere, you want to look for, again, how many unique people are engaging with it, and then like what is the total amount overall. And I think that can give you a really good idea. And then also, click-throughs are another important one, right? And so that if somebody is clicking through a link on a Facebook, event, or a lot of that's actually more on the like advertising side of things. I get a lot better analytics. But you can at least see, I think you can still see click-throughs on Facebook analytics. So you can definitely see it on email, you can definitely see it on Instagram. Yeah. Does that help answer that question?
Yeah, so click-throughs means site visits. I think on Instagram, but on Facebook it's click-throughs. The language is like so
Yeah.
just because I'm looking at like accounts reached, engagement, and then site visits, like how many clicks. Those are the things, right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd say, thinking about that tracking, how important is it to you? Are you reporting that engagement to potential donors and supporters? I think that's just like, is that work key to your organization's mission and purpose, or is it kind of just in support of? And I think yours is a good example. One other time that recently that I have, included that kind of engagement in grants is for the New Orleans Pride Center, where we're trying to reach as many people within the region as possible with our message. Any other questions about this and kind of like, the various reasons why we want to invest in social media? All right. All right, so social media platforms. What are you using? What do you want to use? What are people using right now? What kind of platforms do you all have right now? I know for me, I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram with my organizations and projects that I administer that for. Mary Jean, do y'all have any social media channels going right now?
Well, I do a lot on Facebook personally, and we do have a website, but Neil is the one that does most of the that kind of stuff. And I really would like to understand how to have a more lively presence, because I mean, I have thousands of emails that I can't get through. I don't know what the process is. There must be a way to funnel all the crap away and just focus on all the good stuff.
That is the dream, always.
But I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, I think that that is a constant struggle for a lot of us. And I just want to say, we had a couple more folks join us, Josh and TL. Thanks for coming in. We're just talking about what social media platforms people are using currently. Do either of you want to come off mute and introduce maybe yourselves and your organizations and projects and tell us about what social media you're using?
I can only be a fly on the wall as there's a bunch of stuff happening simultaneously. But I could say right now we're going to start using the integrated Facebook and Instagram workflow, the Meta Business Suite tools, and are actually going to be doing some specific advertising to try to develop some email signups. And we're also using Blue Sky and the distributed network. What the hell? I can't believe
Mastodon.
it. What's that?
Mastodon?
Mastodon. I was gonna say Minotaur. And I found that Mastodon and Blue Sky and grudgingly Twitter sort of serve as little blips. We can send out little blips, and I guess Facebook and Instagram have much more of a storytelling quality. But I'm super upset and anxious about Meta's AI policy, that they're going to be scraping the material. We publish a lot of original art and fiction, and frankly, this is causing us to rethink it as a platform. Although it seems like it's going to be the most beneficial one for developing email signups. So that's a little bit of a struggle for us.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because that is something that is in evolution right now, very much so.
I can talk about sort of social use plans stuff, kind of, which is that so like for my project, we don't have any social set up right now. And we've been running for like 3 years. And part of that is because we haven't done fundraising before this year, and we've done just events. And we try to have pretty intimate events. So it's like we don't even really like want it for the past few years for either purpose, either for promoting out, trying to recruit new people to attend events, or we just hadn't been doing it for fundraising. But like now with this mentorship program where there's an actual like product that we're helping to produce, like these like short form stories, I'm thinking, I think the people that engage with us, maybe there are donors that are using Facebook, and that is like a good thing to consider. And I guess I'll just check that button on Instagram that cross posts everything to Facebook. But I think like the plan is to use Instagram to sort of like collaborate or post with the mentees, like their works, maybe as sort of like a 3-post grid with like their profiles in the center or something, and like an audio excerpt of their story or photos of them reporting. I feel like we didn't like think about it at all with this first mentorship cohort. And I think like it's good to think a lot about like what kind of content do we want them to be maybe getting like during the duration of their participation in this program that we run, to that kind of distribution end. But yeah, I feel like that will be the main usage of it, I guess, is the plan in my head right now for like impact, so that they can actually just like amplify their own stories and share it really easily. and then for like documentation, because people will just then Google us and this will be something that comes up higher.
Yeah, thank you.
Kyle, can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering too, like, I so always want to try things because I try and fail and try and fail, and then I find something that works. But I'm also recognizing that like my local network, my other arts-based organizations, they're not fancy. So they're hyper local and they're gonna stick to Facebook and Instagram. So I'm kind of stuck because if I start, putting all the bells and whistles, so I don't know, maybe there's like a strategy there. I'm not really sure. Or I should just recognize where everyone's at.
Yeah, I think you always just want to go where your audience is. Like you're not going to be able to sway them, and that's not your job to sway them to a new social media platform, right? So, in a moment, we're going to look at sort of the demographics about where different people are in different social media platforms, and just yeah, that you really want to just be thinking about that. And it goes beyond just age, right? You want to think about overall demographics as a whole for your audiences, and have that play into that choice. But also some of it is going to be, we have fairly limited choices in terms of these social media networks right now. And that is a problem. You won't hear me talking about X because frankly, it's terrible in a lot of ways, especially towards LGBTQ people. And so, it's definitely there to be used, but it also has a falling user base that is not engaging every day. And then, TikTok, while it is very useful in a lot of ways, and it's engaged by a lot of young people, it's not distributed by location-based algorithms in the same way that Instagram and Facebook are. And so that means that for events and programs, communications and marketing, it's just not as useful. Anybody else want to share? Tassi, did you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what social media you use before you move on?
Hi, greetings. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hi, my name is Tassi, and I'm the creative director with Red Clay Soundhouse. We're a sonic-centric, experiential art project. And right now, we have not been using any socials. Every now and then, we'll use our personal stories on Instagram. And mainly, I'm looking and how do we do this that we want to maintain mystery and exclusivity with our experiences and what we're doing, but then also like it appear public with more of a interactive and investigative, and we haven't quite figured that out. So we've been using literally our like text and email is how we kind of, and like in exclusive personal invites with our folks, and that's kind of how we've been doing it. But we need a public presence, and the way we garner funding is through grants and other proposals, which we don't necessarily need a social media. It's just our website. We have a deck and we're doing that, but we would like to use social media to like just create more of a buzz. I'm just maintaining mystery, maintaining like just like what would that look like, and inclusive, like personal and exclusive. I mean, like personal invite. Like what would that look like? I do follow a few companies and projects that do it, and they actually don't really use social media. So that's what I'm just really curious about.
Yeah, your project reminds me a little bit of like speakeasy models, which is something I've seen before, and that might be something for you to look into. Just to quickly kind of address what you brought up. There are ways to kind of use visuals and things and teasing, kind of again like creating a sense of mystery, and then kind of having password and kind of sign up registration oriented type things to keep that exclusivity in place. But I bet if you looked around at some of the kind of like peak performance speakeasies that are happening, that you could find some fun examples of what people are doing to kind of create that sense of mystery and not give away too much. All right, great. Anybody else want to share before we move on? Awesome. All right, so social media platforms, demographics by age, probably these are like a year behind at this point. So but it hasn't changed that much. And you can kind of see where you have a lot more older users on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest makes perfect sense. A lot more young users on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitch is a gaming social media platform. Uh, so those are kind of the ones that are going to skew towards the younger, and you can kind of see in terms of those middle demographics, there's a lot of variation there. So it's just one thing to keep in mind as you're designing your social media strategy and figuring out which platforms you really want to invest in. Think about who is your audience, who are the demographics, the age-wise that you're trying to pull from, and this can start to help guide you in that. And again, go where your audience or your community already is. Do not try to shift them. And just try to really think, even like do some research. You can go and find other social media accounts that are doing the kind of things that you want to do, engage the community members that you want to engage with. See, what platforms are they using? And that's actually a really good just research in general, because as we'll talk about in a little bit, those collaborations and partnerships can be an important part of gaining more support. Oh, this is a repeat. Sorry about that. And I just wanted to also say, like, document. One thing that's nice about social media is it does force you to document everything that you do in a different way. And so that can be really useful for as you're pulling together work samples. And just really as artists, as arts organizations, documentation is so key. Even if it's just your iPhone out, like always be taking those photos and videos. All right, so I want to take a moment. If we could have like, let's say 3 minutes, I'm gonna put on a song and we're gonna do a little bit of journaling about what is a time a social media post or campaign really impacted you. Could be something viral that you saw that you were like, oh, cute, or it could be like one of the nonprofit campaigns, or it could be some arts meme, anything like that. We just want to try to get into a little bit of, what makes a social media post interesting and impactful. So I'm gonna put on a song for 3 minutes and just take some notes to yourself, and then we're gonna share back with the group. Hey Neil, thanks for joining. We are currently just having folks do some quick journaling about a social media post they saw that really impacted them. That's why. So if you want to join on in with that, please feel free to. Let's say we have just about 1 more minute to do that journal. Thanks, y'all. All right, so who wants to be the first person to share?
I'll go.
Thanks, Maria.
Look, I used to be a teacher, so I hated that moment.
Here, I'm gonna take off shares.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, when I find something impactful on social media, it's because it feels very personal, which I think is a really hard thing to do. And so things that, for example, like a behind the scenes or a profile. And so I really strive to do that as well. So it's kind of a model for me because what I'm looking for is connection and that sort of sense of authenticity. And I think that's why I'm really focused on being hyper local because I actually know the people doing the social media and their basically their campaigns, their fundraisers, their events. And I really want to feel like I'm part of that network. So I'm constantly sort of, commenting, being a lot more interactive and engage with engagement, which I've noticed really makes a big difference. So, I mean, I don't know necessarily if I'm answering the question in terms of like what style but I mean, I definitely sort of, it's hard to sort I know it when I see it, in other words.
But also, I want to look at that you were sharing local things, and that was something that was impactful to you is that it was local and people that you knew and engaged with in other ways. Great, thanks. Who else is willing to share with us? Kristen, Matt, anybody who's not on video?
Oh, well, I can go.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. When I first started our press and regular journal issues, I avoided social media for easily the first 5 to 6 months. And the first site I signed up for was Twitter. And again, this was well before Elon and Twitter's now rapid decline. But something that really impressed me at the time was that I didn't know it, but many journals and just individual writers will do writers boosts and cross-posting to help people find submission opportunities and to help journals and zines get their issues out, get their calls for submissions out. And that stuck with me that, okay, I didn't know anyone on Twitter at the time, but there were tons of people who were willing to kind of stick their necks out and, give a little help to somebody new.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you, Matt. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that, about how you can use those kinds of collaborations to build out your audience. Anybody else willing to share? Mary Jean?
I'm trying to, okay, there.
Hi, I am.
Okay. We'll do you next, Mary Jean.
Are you saying? Okay. So the one that impacted me was there's a lot of, I guess you would call it collaboration marketing, where you saw the experience being announced through like kind of more of their collaborators. And then when you went to go look up them and what they're doing, their social media is just literally, they're just like a 6 blocks that just says their company's name. And then you click the link, and when you go to the company's name, and link sends you to the website, and you look at the website and you just click one link and it sends you right to the LinkedIn. And that was it. And it was just something about that was like, it created that scarcity mentality. Like, I got hungry to want to know more. Who are these people? What are they doing? Where can I find them? But then you're seeing all this loud promotion from HBO, and, like, come see this, the Barbie house was created. And you knew it was exclusive. No one can go in there, like, not just anyone. So it was just something about that, like, there's not even like, the website is literally just one button, and it takes you to their LinkedIn, where you just see write-ups about who the owners are and talks that they gave. That's it. And it was something really fascinating about that to me.
That's great. Thank you. Great. Mary Jean, do you want to share now? Oh, you're on mute.
All right, there. Did I mute myself again, or am I here? Okay.
You're good now.
You know, I do a radio show every week on KPOO, and so I have like niche people that I follow, and I try to get news from the nations, and I try to get news from urban Indians in different cities. And I find that it's really, really difficult to get all the information that's happening right now, because people don't put it out there. They don't put it in, and nobody's covering us. We really don't get coverage in the mass media or in the news or anything else. We're like an invisible community all over the country. And so it's very frustrating. And I agree with Maria, it's the personal. It's Mrs. Allard, who wrote a letter asking for support to help protect her son's graveyard on Standing Rock, that started way early before the news people got there. And I read her letter on the air, and I believe that started people coming to Standing Rock to support the water protectors. There's a personal connection that I have with Myron Dewey back then, when he was still alive, and he was doing this marvelous drone work. He was taking drones of the different activist organizations, and to be able to interview him and what his experiences were was just amazing. And I find that you have to go to the local benefits, the local town hall meetings, the local celebrations, the Father's Day events, the Mother's Day events, the powwows, in order to get who it is you want to follow on Facebook, or who it is you want to follow on Instagram, or who it is, like right now, I just looked up Ari, because he said radio, he said audio is what he said, audio. So I now am following Ari, just saying.
And I think that that's actually really important. Well, to build your own community within the virtual world, is you go and you find those people within your community that are active and in-person events and all that. And then you can look and see, who are they following, right? When you click follow them, Instagram is going to give you a whole long list of other people you can follow. And I'll sometimes just go down, for like half an hour holes, kind of clicking through and finding new content creators. Because I know there are a lot of very active Indigenous content creators on social media right now, doing some really great work out there. And so it'd be great for you to get connected to them so that they can be amplifying and boosting out your posts and your work as well. Any other thoughts or folks that ideas people would like to share, things that they've witnessed on social media that have worked really well or had an impact with them? All right, great. I'm gonna move us on. So I want to share quickly about some tools that can help save time. Some of y'all might have heard about a lot of these, but kind of just thinking about what are the primary areas of tools that you can need when you're posting these. One of them is absolutely a graphic design program of some kind. Canva is available. It's free with its basic trial. It's very functional and easy to use. It's probably the easiest kind of just user experience overall. And you can upgrade it and get access to a lot more features. But for a lot of folks, probably the free one is going to be plenty to do simple designs for social media and everything. If you want to get a little bit more technical, Adobe Express, I believe it is free still. And is this very simple, quick tool that Adobe has put together. It's like a little bit harder to get to know, and has fewer templates. Like the nice thing about Canva is that there's a lot of pre-built templates. So you're going out there, you're just trying to create some quick social media promotional posts for things. It's really easy to do. GIMP is an older one. It's still available. It's completely free. It's probably the hardest to use because it's completely open source, created by the kind of developer community. But it has a lot of the basic tools that Photoshop has, and Canva has. It does not have the templates or anything. And so, it is a useful tool. I would say for most people, if you're not actually doing graphic design regularly, Canva is probably what I would recommend. And it's really easy also to share with teams if you're working with teams of people. It's also really good to get a social media scheduling tool. This is something so that you can line up all the different social media posts and just have them go out. And you can also easily have it going to the different channels all through one app. One of the nice things about that is that, yes, Meta does have that easy repost between Instagram and Facebook. And I do recommend that everybody do that if you're not actively developing your own content for Facebook. The reason why you might want to consider differentiation of that content is because Meta does degrade your posts in the algorithm when you use that. So like they're not viewing it as new content. They're like, you're just bringing it over from Instagram. So they don't put it in as many people's feeds overall, versus if you did the same post and you actually just did it into Facebook yourself, and you actually get more engagement that way. It's very interesting, especially if you like just change it up even a little bit. And I've tested with this just to make sure, and I'm like, oh yeah, yep, sure enough. Like I usually get about twice the engagement on posts that I just actually manually enter into Facebook versus have it do the auto feed from Instagram. But so then the nice thing about things like Buffer or Hootsuite is that it will allow you to do that within the same app. So you can kind of still just copy and paste and create, maybe change a couple words and change the format a little bit, but you can do it really quickly and easily. And Buffer is free for, it has a trial version as well, and that allows you to connect up to 3 social media accounts to it, which is plenty. Oh, looks like somebody is in the waiting room. So, plenty for most people. And so, that will get you, your Facebook and your Instagram, and then whatever your third of your choices. Obviously, if you're doing that Mastodon and Blue Sky, and all of that, you can consider upgrading. It's not that expensive, or you can just consider using it for your main social media accounts. But those will let you schedule it out. You can kind of batch it up. You can have like your social media work hour or hours at the beginning of the week, and then forget about it the rest of the week. And that's a beautiful thing, because I know for me, it's that constant idea of like, oh, I have to send this out every day. or else it's not like, you know, I have to engage with it in some way every day. And so by having that scheduling tool, it just really lets you do more content on your own schedule in a way that just it makes it a lot easier. And then generative language models, popularly known as AI, right? They're terrible in their own ways, but they're also useful tools right now, and they're not going away anytime soon. And so I would try to think about ways that you can use them to streamline your process. They are really useful for brainstorming ideas. You can tell them to spit out 20 ideas for social media posts for your specific project or type of project, and it will give you 20. Out of those 20, maybe 5 to 10 of them will be decent, but that's still 5 to 10 decent ideas. And then you might also get your own ideas as you're going through that list, right? Because just like brainstorming with another human being, even having any, you know, a generative language model spitting these things back at us, it's useful. It gets the creative juices going. And also you can ask them about your audience. Be like, hey, you know, this is the work I do. Create a list of audiences that I should be reaching out to. Create a list of strategies for me to reach out to those audiences on social media. And just see where it takes you. Again, not all of it's going to be useful or good information, but it can be a quick kind of time-saving type thing. And also, now that there's a lot more image-oriented type things, if you're somebody where writing copy and words are like a challenge, then you can actually enter in, like upload the image into the AI thing, and it's going to feed back, you know, this is what the, you know, is being shown on the image. I would maybe like avoid that a little bit until you understand, like we all have a better grasp of how intellectual property is working with AI. I guess that would be the one thing is like, don't do that maybe with your artistic work. And I think that actually this is a good moment to touch base on that again. I think there are some scary things in terms of intellectual property. That has always been the case though with Facebook and Instagram. I'm pretty sure that they've always owned every photo and image that you upload there. So it's always been a challenge around IP. And yes, they're going to be training the AI, but I'm sure that they're already doing that on the data troves that they've collected off of us already. I would just make some, you know, risk assessments as you go along. Is it a piece of art that you just absolutely like? Is it a visual piece of art that, you know, they would be able to rip off completely? Maybe don't put that up on social media. Is it, but you can tease a small portion of the piece of visual art, right? You can do a promotional graphic talking about the piece of visual art. You know, performance art, dance, those kinds of things, anything educational, it's not as much of an issue. A snapshot of a performance does not equal the performance itself, right? And so, but you know, as those things are arising, yeah, just be aware, you know, intellectual property and kind of the status with surveillance capitalism as we have right now, it's sketchy at best. And it's just something to be aware of whenever dealing with social media or AI or Google or any of that. And so I put down both ChatGPT and Google Bard. I've actually found it useful for when doing these things to even have both of them brainstorm out ideas, and they come up with different things. And again, it's all just about creativity and kind of getting out some lists so that you don't have to spend your own time generating this. Any questions about this before we move on?
So, Kyle, it's not true that like, I think I had started the social media scheduling like a while back last year when I first realized it was like, I have to do it. I can't get out of it. But I had heard that if you use one of those schedulers, that your account can be locked. That's not true? Okay.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I've never heard of that being an issue.
Okay. Just
And I
wanted
know
to know
lots of people who use them. So
I was just learning how to do it. And so I think there was like some YouTube video that was like, watch out, like if these platforms figure out that you're not actually posting and it's being auto posted, blah, blah, blah.
well, okay. Like if you're using them in a way with like maybe automations to post out a bunch of repetitive nonsense, I think that's where you're gonna get the problem, right? If you're like, some people use these things and they're posting every 10 minutes with all this different content that is generated automatically in different ways. And that's where that'll definitely get you in trouble. But if
Okay.
you're using it to just schedule it out in the way that it's meant to be, then it's never going to be an issue. Any other questions on this before we move on? All right. All right, so building up your social media following, some quick tips. Regular content posting is key. It doesn't have to be every day, but every couple, 3 or 4 days, every week even. Just get into a rhythm that really matches what you're doing with the work and with your own capacity. Don't stress about it if you can't do it as often as other people do it. The idea is just to do something. And so again, even if it's once a month, and it's just a recap of what you've done programmatically and a couple of pictures of events and performances or visual art, like that's gonna, again, create that kind of historical record. Or it can also be with teasers for your events, going back to your work, Tassi. And so, but that just helps the algorithm know that like, hey, you're there, you're part of this whole community, you're regularly engaging with it. And so that's why also it's the same with following and interacting with other accounts, right? This is so important. We often forget to actually become a part of this online community, and it really is a community. And I think that everybody's been sharing all these wonderful stories about how important it is for that collaboration and cooperation and how that can really help you grow your account. So you want to be interacting, following, and interacting with accounts that have similar content to what you want to be posting, that are artists that you admire, arts organizations that are doing similar work that you look up to, that maybe have the kind of content that you're excited about. And these are also great places for you to find content for reposting and sharing, because that's one thing that's nice is you don't have to be creating something regular every day or every time you're posting. Reposting and sharing other people's content still counts towards regular posting in the eyes of the algorithm and in the eyes of your community of followers. And it means that you're building up those relationships. People pay attention when you start reposting their work. They like it if you start mentioning and following them, commenting on their posts. Again, you know, it's kind of like that, you know, you want to be seen as well as see others. And so while you're reposting and sharing, it's really important to always give credit and mention the creator. Don't just steal things. That doesn't help build relationships at all, ever. And also those are really great ways to gain followers, right? It's going to help introduce you to new communities of people. Because sometimes people will see you commenting and they'll be like, oh, who's this? What's this sassy comment going on here? Right, and so collaborations are another great way to bring in new followers. There's a number of ways to do collaborations on the different social media platforms. Instagram has a way for you to even invite a collaborator in once you've created a post, so that it gets shared to both of your social media networks and channels. And then there's other ways working with other social media artists. You both create the content, you both share it out to your account. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do those kinds of collaborations, and they all help bring in new followers. And so, you know, this is where that kind of like lift up in the community that can happen. Reach out to the people who have more followers. Do that direct ask, you know, just send them a social media message. They're used to getting messages on social media. I promise you, they have lots and lots of followers. They get, you know, new messages from people they don't know all the time. And they have to be vetting them, because some of those are people that they are collaborating with, or they're people who are supporting their work as content creators. And so it is always worth sending out messages. You will be surprised how many yeses you get when you ask for support and collaboration from your social media. But in the end, content is queen, and you got to cater to your audiences. So you got to be thinking about, what is the fun content that you can be building up? What is the unique content that you can be building up that will cause people to want to follow and interact with your account? Because that's what's going to make the difference between getting those new followers or not. And you want to keep growing your account, because that's what's going to help keep growing that impact and exposure. All right, so storytelling and social media, why does it matter? Right, social media, storytelling, and branding. Oh my, we know that storytelling and branding is important. Look at the good witch versus the wicked witch. The wicked witch, Elphaba, really needed a better publicist. She did not have her social media game together at all. Linda, she was all about those TikToks, all about those Instagrams, and she played that game and everybody just loved her. And what does Elphaba get? A bucket of water on her head. It's just terrible. So branding is a big part of storytelling, right? The good witch versus the wicked witch. And successful brands have always used stories as a way to connect with and motivate audiences. How many of y'all have watched Mad Men? Okay, yeah, just curious. It's about a 1950s ad agency, and it is all about those, one character is always using those stories to motivate and connect in terms of marketing and sales. A good story tugs on the heartstring and really gets people engaged with your work. So story elements of branding include tone, what are the words, images, and colors, that they all come together to play a part in setting the tone of your communications, right? Is it hot pink? Or is it a nice cool green or purple? Again, what are the colors or what are the images that you're using? Are they playful and expressive? Are they more subdued and personal? How are the words? Are you being sassy and playful, or is it very serious and ponderous? Those are some of the things you want to be talking about. So again, going into style, are you being witty, tongue-in-cheek, or deadly serious? And then content, what type are you using and what is it telling your audience? What kind of photos and videos are you using? What are they sharing? Yeah, those images are worth 1,000 words and videos are 1,000 images. So, they are powerful means of communications and you want to use them in the right way. And so a little bit more about storytelling through visuals. Consistent visuals really help establish your brand identity. So people don't even need to read, right? They can just look at it and they know it's you. And so main visual brand components include your logo, even just if it's like a one-off project, oftentimes having like some kind of text logo that's standard and repeated can be really helpful. If you are an organization, I do just highly suggest creating even a simple logo. And it can just be a specific font that you like repeating. And that can be your kind of main logo identity. You also want to choose your main colors. 3 to 5 is great. Can be a little bit more. But if you just keep repeating those same colors and your different visuals, again, that's building that brand identity. Also choosing fonts, one font for heading and another font that's a little bit easier to read for paragraphs and text overall. And that's also, all of this is nice because then every time you're going in to create any kind of communications media that has visual components, you're like, okay, great. I know I've got the logo. I'm using these colors. We're using these fonts. You don't even have to think about it. It actually relieves a lot of that pressure once you get this locked in. And again, photos, what are the photos really telling? So make sure your photos and videos tell the story that you want. And sometimes no photos or videos are better than bad photos and videos. I've definitely had times where I've meant to get better photos of different events, or I had a volunteer getting a video and it's just ooh, it does not represent the brand well, it does not represent the organization or the project well. And so it's okay to just shelf that. Even if it's the volunteer's hard work, it's better to have nothing out there sometimes than bad things out there. And, if that's the case, if you're looking for visuals, just get a little creative. You're like, oh, I don't have any photos of that. Are there some other stock photos or visuals or graphic components that you could put up there that just provide a little bit of break to the monotony of constant text? All right, so we're going to do some work on developing your project or organization's social media brand identity. All right, so quick personal journaling moment again. We are going to, we're going to talk, so we're going to take, let's say 2 minutes, 3 minutes again. And so we'll quickly write down what style, tone, and types of content would make up your social media brand or identity, or that maybe do make up your social media brand or identity. if you have ones that you use already, share those with us, and then try to think about what are those elements that we've touched on that you maybe don't have yet, and explore some of that. Great, so I'm gonna go ahead and put on on for a moment, and then we will share that. All right. I just want to lift up, I saw Mary Jean, your question in the chat asking about crossover between the apps. And are you referring to between like Canva and like Buffer and those kinds of things? There might be some integrations. I have never tried that. I know that Canva does let you link your Instagram account and upload directly from Canva. I don't think that it has the ability to schedule within Canva though, and I don't know if it can link directly to either of the scheduling apps. Yeah, and Canva also uploads to Facebook. Yeah. All right, great. So who wants to share first? Who? Let me pull up my list of folks so I'm not just staring at the gorgeous Mary Jean and Maria. Let's see. I know. Tossie or Matt, I think that y'all are the two that can actually share that are off screen currently. Would either of you like to start our discussion?
Sure, I can go. Well, I think ours is fairly straightforward, since we're running a poetry and art press. So for our socials, I'd say that most of our content is what you'd expect. It's either about our issues, calls for submissions, sometimes excerpts of pieces we published. We do a lot of reposting of posts from our authors to help support them, get them some more visibility. For style, well, we cast ourselves as a review, so we don't really restrict ourselves to any particular genre or style of poetry. We cover the entire spectrum. What else could I add about that?
But
I
Matt, in
guess
terms of style, would you say that maybe your style is in fact the poetry and like a little bit more literary in style, maybe versus casual or informal?
Oh, that's a good way to put it. I would say aspirationally, and that's with the caveat that it's very aspirational. On a good day, we aim for something like the New Yorker or a poetry magazine, but it's probably more middle of the road mainstream contemporary poetry.
No, that's great. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Please continue.
Oh, well, I think the biggest thing, well, maybe two things that I could comment on. With all of our posts, now that we've been around for a couple of years and have a modest following, I always think about how many people are going to see this post, because it could be on the low end 25 or 50, or on the high end a couple of thousand people. So every post is cast with the idea that this is a professional communication, even if the social media platform itself seems fairly casual and easygoing and, people just chatting. So we definitely do our best to stay out of social media drama and controversy as much as we can. And then aside from that, something that I have noticed, and I'm not sure how relevant this really is, but every time, at least for the last year and a half or so, with each issue we've posted, there's usually one or two authors in each issue who will have a piece that just pops off on Twitter or on Blue Sky. So we'll typically see out of maybe 18, 20 authors in an issue, about half will say something about it on our socials. But generally, there's at least one or two people where the piece will take off and that'll get hundreds or thousands of likes and dozens of reposts. So I haven't come up with a method for predicting which pieces those will be, but I also post issues with that in mind, that at least one or two pieces will get some traction, and those pieces we need to pay more attention to.
Yeah, I would be surprised if you can ever develop a methodology for predicting that, because the internet is in fact quite whimsical.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, yeah, it definitely is. I think the latest one, this one I kind of suspected it would take off because it was just a very likable flash piece. It was a creative nonfiction flash memoir kind of story from East Coast poet who used to work as a camp counselor at a Girl Scouts of America horse camp. Just a very nostalgic CNF kind of piece, and that I kind of thought that one would get some traction, people would like it, and that one actually did.
That's great. Mary Jean, how about yourself? What did you journal about in terms of your brand style? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. Um, I'm having trouble with this because I don't do much, I mean, I do a radio show. I put all the effort and all my energy into a weekly thing where I am producing content and trying to come up with the music and to support the native artists and it's really exciting, and that's where my effort and energy goes to as far as outreach goes. As far as so my use of the media has always been as gathering information from the people that I follow. So I mean, my brand identity is KPOO, you know, community radio, voices of the Native Nations, listen to us, you know?
Mhm.
So I don't know.
How
I'm
would you
having trouble with
describe
branding.
how would you describe your communications on your radio station, on your radio programs? Like when you're talking with other native artists or activists, like how do those conversations feel? What are you usually trying to get at with them?
I want to find out how they are expressing traditional cultures in a modern urban area, and
Mm,
how they're able to reach back to their ancestral land bases to find ways to reincorporate those art forms in a non-traditional way and still maintain the connections to the traditions. And
yeah, so I'm hearing, please.
I also want to tell people who are listening that this is their station, because everything that we do is all volunteer and it's for your benefit that we do it. So those are the two things.
I love it. So what I'm hearing is like the traditional through the modern, right? The connection between traditional and modern, which I think is a very strong basis, right? As well as resilience, right? The importance of resilience and how that can be a through line, and then kind of community grassroots, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so you could even look at your social media and think about that in the same way. Think about your content as you know, content that would give grassroots community resilience and hope, well, and do that connection to traditional and the modern. So you can be posting both traditional iterations of indigenous cultures and societies as well as modern, contemporary, and especially wherever you can find it is connected.
Yeah, I think Neil said something in the chat too. So
Great, let me read that out. Mary Jean and I are beginning exploring a new project about songs and the wind. We are supporting a Tule, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, sailboat maker who will embark from San Francisco and sail to Hawaii on a boat made out of grass. I'm wondering if there is a social media creation tool well adapted to audio. Ah, very amazing project. So that's, I can look that up and I will follow up with you about that. I know that there must be free versions of audio editing tools out there. I don't know that there's a social media creation tool specifically to it, but what you want to do is find kind of like a version of Audition, basically Adobe Audition that's free. And then, you know, that way you can edit your audio to where you want it. And then there are some free video creation tools. Like what I would think about doing is like getting a slideshow editor, right? And actually Instagram does some automatic slideshows. Okay, thank you, Audacity. Right, so Audacity is the free sound editing tool. Thank you, Josh. So yeah, if you copy that, Audacity will let you do the free sound editing. Yeah, and then think about some of these free video content creation tools. Again, Instagram has some built-in slideshow type things that you can do. So do some photos, or you can even be, you know, some promotional clips, talking, like graphics, talking about the event, and then the audio kind of behind that, right? Yeah, so those are some of the tools that I'd say you could do that specifically. I would also reach out to, are you all familiar with the Bay Area American Indian Two Spirits? So they've been involved with the construction of a fourth Tiat plank canoe, and it's just getting launched this weekend in
yeah, L.
San
Frank is doing a June 15th
yeah,
canoe
El Frank, yeah.
journey. Yeah. No, I'm not familiar with them.
Okay, yeah, okay, you were joking with me. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I would even talk to El Frank and see like what, you know, what have they been doing for social media, and if they have any plans that they're doing, because they've been very well supported for that
I'm
project.
actually going to interview her on Wednesday on the
Oh, I love
radio.
that. I gotta help write their interim report and learn a lot about the project. It's very cool. Anyways, who else would like to share about their brand and brand strategy and all that before we break for the day?
I only have a minute, so I'll just make it
Okay.
quick. Well, because I do children's art and it's process-based, I just have sort of key phrases that I continue to think about when I'm creating social media. So it's essentially like focus on fun and exploration. There are no mistakes, only happy accidents, learning through play. So these are all like process-based approaches. And so everything that you would see on my social media sort of follows those philosophies. And it's always really bright and handmade and lots of color and messy and really just an emphasis on the children having a great time. And so it's often I look for handmade Canva templates that look handmade or made by children, which is just really fun. That means my social media page is super bright and colorful, maybe overwhelmingly so. But anyway, I love it.
I love that. I think that's a perfect note to end on, is try to find ways to have fun with this. Like, social media can be so cumbersome and tedious, and it is repetitive. However, it is a chance for you to express your creativity, and it's a chance for you to share about your project with all these people who don't know about it. And so if there are ways for you to make it fun to tap into other parts of your creativity, I just highly, highly recommend it. Like, maybe you like making collages. I know I like to do zines. I used to make zines back when I was younger, and so sometimes I'll go and I'll hand cut things out still, and make little hand things and then scan that and have that be my social media. So again, try to get creative with it, find ways that it activates your artistic side and your passion for your work, because that's where you're going to find the sweet spot for everybody else to get activated and to feel passionate about your work. Great. Any last questions before we break for the day?
Do you all mind putting your Instagrams real quick on the thing? I'll follow you. Okay.
I'll be honest, I am like, my Instagram is almost nothing because I do so many projects. And so I run everybody else's like social media. I hardly ever do my personal stuff. All right, I'm gonna just end the recording now. Thanks y'all so much for being here. Feel free to stay around if you've got a question. Thank you.